sit here and gaslight you all by saying that Velma isn't as bad as everyone is making it out to be, and that the internet hyperbole hive mind is going out of its way to make the show seem worse than it actually is. But if I did that, that would make me a liar, and I don't like being a liar. After watching the first 2 episodes of this show, I can confidently say that it's just as bad as everyone says it is. Velma is so unbelievably terrible in so many different aspects that I just have to make a video talking about why it sucks. So that's what this video is going to be. This is going to be my raw and unfiltered thoughts about the first 2 episodes. I am currently developing a much more thorough critical analysis about why the show doesn't work as a whole, but since I have not watched Season 1 in its entirety as of the making of this video, it's going to take a little bit more time, so I hope you are all understanding of that. So, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. The show has so many problems that I honestly don't even know where to start. But if I was going to start, I would say that the whole race-swapping aspect is the least of this show's problems. Honestly, the fact that Shaggy is black, Daphne is Asian, and Velma is Indian is honestly trivial. And even though there are a lot of fake charlatans out there that would like to have you believe that the sole reason the show sucks is because of the race swapping, honestly, it's so trivial that it shouldn't even be in the conversation. If I had to start with the reasons why this show is so bad, I would really start with the opening scene. So really, the opening scene is honestly just a bunch of useless banter where Daphne talks about how a bunch of TV pilots have more gratuitous sex and nudity in comparison to the rest of the series, when they're also engaging in nudity. The first scene is a shower scene. So instead of, pointing out this overused trope and then subverting the audience's expectations by doing the exact opposite, they do essentially the same thing that they criticize other TV pilots for doing. It's honestly stupid, and then they're debating back and forth about Daphne's reasons for liking the Riverdale pilot. In fact, they talk about the only reason why Daphne likes the Riverdale pilot is because Betty and Veronica kissed, and that's like a huge topic of debate, and then Daphne gets into a fight with another girl over that, and she basically shoves her face into the shower tiles, and she has this real psychopathic look when she's doing it. It's honestly just a bunch of useless banter that's just there to fill time. If you watch the show, then you know that Velma and Daphne hate each other, and it's not believable in any way, shape, or form. They honestly try so hard to make you believe that Velma and Daphne hate each other's guts, but it just doesn't work because it's not developed at all, and Velma's sole reason for hating Daphne is so ridiculously petty. The reason why she hates Daphne is because, in her own words, Daphne became hot and ditched her for a bunch of other girls that are also hot. That's it. That's her only reason for hating Daphne, and you don't really know why Daphne hates Velma, so it's so one-sided. And if you watch Scooby-Doo at any point in your life, you would know that Velma and Daphne have never hated each other. So the fact that they tried to make them hate each other in this incarnation, it just doesn't work at all. And, they hate each other for the entirety of the pilot and the majority of the second episode. But then they make them not hate each other because they end up kissing at the end of the second episode. I'm not joking, they literally kiss. So, it's just... the whole thing is so forced and contrived. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work at all. And, here's the thing. I'm not opposed to Velma and Daphne being in a relationship, but that has to be something that you develop over time. It has to be something that you lead up to. It has to be something that you develop properly, but it isn't developed. They just shoehorn it in just for the sake of appeasing the LGBTQ community. And don't get me wrong, diversity and representation is a good thing, but this is just. I honestly hate to say it, but I think in this instance it's justified. This is forced diversity at its worst. It really is, because it's not well thought out in any way, shape, or form. The only reason why Velma and Daphne kiss is because, they just, everybody knows that Velma is a lesbian, so they just needed a way to make that clear to everybody, so they're just like, hey, let's have a Velma and Daphne kiss, even though they have absolutely nothing in common, and even though we set up the fact that they hate each other's guts, and even though they have absolutely no chemistry whatsoever, let's just have them kiss. Let's just have them, like each other in a romantic sense, even though we wanted you to believe that they hated each other previously. It's so hilariously dumb that it's honestly unbelievable. And they made Daphne a mean girl, even though Daphne was never a mean girl. Oh, and she's also a drug dealer because she is trying to save up money so she can hire a private investigator to find her biological parents. Yeah, that's it. That's the only reason. She's a drug dealer. Oh my goodness, it's just. I know I seem completely unrehearsed and jumbled compared to how I normally am when I'm reading off of a script, but I mean, I don't even know what to say. The show is just so unbelievably bad that my thoughts about it are just completely off the cuff. I'm just completely rambling because the words that I have to describe how bad the show are just limitless. Velma is, without a doubt, one of the most unlikable and insufferable main characters I have seen in quite some time. She is so smart and intelligent, or at least that's what the show would like to have you believe, but she's so obnoxious about it that she is more annoying than endearing. The show desperately wants you to believe that the reason people don't like her is because she's a weirdo and a creepy loser, when in reality the reason why people don't like her is because she is a huge bitch to everybody she comes into contact with for no discernible reason. She is so unnecessarily mean to everybody she comes into contact with and judges everybody. So when you walk around acting like that, it shouldn't be a surprise when nobody likes you. But they want you to believe that, she goes against the norm, she's not popular, so that's why people don't like her. It's almost as if the creative team didn't even watch the show they were making, because she is so unpleasant and mean and horrible that you honestly can't like her. How are you supposed to like her? Honestly. Like, you could not make a character more unlikable if you tried. Like, and she's the main character. This is her story. This is an origin story about how Velma formed the Mystery Gang. So you would think that they would try to make some sort of an effort to make her likable, so you would actually want to see her succeed, and, you would. But they don't do that. They don't do that in any conceivable way. They make her into this incredibly snarky know-it-all, but unlike Tony Stark in the first Iron Man, she does not have the charm to pull it off. So you just get irritated by her mere presence, and that's a problem, because at the end of the day, if you want the audience to root for your characters, the characters have to be likable, and the characters are not likable. Velma is not likable. This show just makes me so mad that just the whole experience is so unpleasant, and I apologize if I am rambling, and if nothing I am saying makes any sense, but that's just how this show makes you, and that's a problem, because when you watch a Scooby-Doo show, you're supposed to laugh, you're supposed to smile, you're supposed to have fun. It's supposed to be a lighthearted affair that doesn't take itself seriously, but the show takes itself so seriously, and it tries way too hard to be adult and not like the Scooby-Doo shows of the past, that it does not resemble anything about why people love Scooby-Doo in the first place. Oh, and speaking of Scooby-Doo, he is not in this show at all. They completely left him out, and honestly, that is a blessing in disguise, because if he was in this show, they would have found a way to completely desecrate his character. Oh, speaking of the desecration of iconic characters, they made Fred into this incredibly dumb, rich, narcissistic asshole. And I'm not even joking. Fred, this incarnation of Fred is so dumb that he is completely incapable of cutting up his own food. And every time he requires somebody to cut up his own food, he says, "Cutties." Yeah, seriously. That's what he says. He says it like a goddamn child. He says, "Cutties." And he's also so dumb, and he's so narcissistic, and is so rich and pampered that he can't recognize anyone if they're not hot. Really, his only purpose for being in the show is to be a vessel for complete and utter humiliation. I'm not even joking. Fred is accused of murdering Brenda and Crystal. Sorry. Fred was completely accused of murdering Brenda and Krista by decapitating their heads and removing their brains. And Velma's only reason for believing that this is the case is because he is a rich white guy that has a small dick. I'm not even kidding. That is her only reason for why Fred is the murderer. And they try to make you believe that Fred is the murderer by making him have random spurts of anger in the vein of Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is hilariously ironic because Fred in this show is voiced by Glenn Howerton, who plays Dennis in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But it doesn't work because if you've watched the first 2 episodes, then you know for a fact that Fred did not murder those girls. He can't even cut up his own food, so why would you at any point believe that he was even remotely capable of murdering 2 teenage girls and removing their brains? So they make him have these random spurts of anger to make you think, maybe he did murder those girls. But he didn't, right? And Velma completely humiliates Fred by revealing the fact that he has a small dick and he's a rich white guy and all that other stuff. And she humiliates him also by revealing the fact that he's so dumb that he can't even cut up his own food. As a matter of fact, the reason why Velma is able to figure out that Fred did not murder Brenda and Krista is solely because of the fact that Fred can't even cut up his own food. Velma doesn't realize that Fred didn't murder those girls by investigating the murders and then coming to that conclusion through a bunch of thorough investigation. No, that's how she realizes that Fred isn't guilty. It is honestly just as dumb as it sounds. It truly is. Oh God, I'm honestly speechless. I don't even know what to say. I just don't even know what to say. The characterization of Velma, Daphne, Fred, and Shaggy are so far off from where they should be that it feels like a completely different show. As a matter of fact, there's a theory floating around that this was supposed to be an original animated series, but Warner Brothers forced it to be a Scooby-Doo show because they didn't think an original series would sell. So that's why everything does not resemble Scooby-Doo. And I honestly buy that theory because this is not a Scooby-Doo show. This is a monstrosity. This is an absolute abomination that desecrates this iconic franchise. And honestly, even though an original series would have been more risky and it most likely would have faded into complete obscurity if it was exactly the same as this show, but honestly, I think Warner Brothers would have been far better served if they greenlit this pitch as an original animated series. Because if it were an original animated series and not tied to the Scooby-Doo franchise, I feel like it would have been able to stand on its own and it wouldn't have had the pressure and the insane expectations of trying to live up to being a Scooby-Doo show. But because it's a Scooby-Doo show, and because it's so much of a dumpster fire, it's an embarrassment. It is a complete and utter embarrassment, and I don't know. What else can I say? Just oh, and by the way, they've completely ruined Shaggy's character. By the way, Shaggy is referred to as Norville in this show. For those of you who don't know, Norville is Shaggy's real name. But I'm just going to refer to him as Shaggy because I just don't care. Anyway, they turned Shaggy into a very pathetic character. They basically made him into a simp that constantly pines over Velma, and he goes above and beyond to try to win her affections. But it's completely one-sided because Velma would never do the same for him in return, and Velma makes it abundantly clear that she does not like Shaggy as anything other than a friend. She even says that he's like a brother to her, and they illustrate this by there's a scene in the pilot where Velma has a hallucination, and she says, "Oh, nobody likes me because I'm weird," and then Norville says, Shaggy says, "I like you," and he says this completely seriously. But Velma thinks this is a joke. He thinks that Shaggy is trying to, do some sort of comedy routine when he's being flat out serious. So, Shaggy professes his love for Velma, and he says that she is the reason he gets up every morning, and that's the reason why her hallucinations go away. And it's just, they just, very much like Fred, Shaggy's only purpose for being in the show is a vessel for humiliation. It's like, Velma's laughing at the fact that Shaggy is professing his love for her, thinking it's a joke, even though we all know that he's being completely serious. The tone of voice that he uses, he says, "No, I like you," is completely antithetical to a joke. Like, if he was saying, "Oh, I like you," in a joking manner, he would have said, "Hey, I like you," or, "Ha, hey, I like you," and but he says it completely seriously. He's completely seriously, but the show treats it as if it's some sort of joke, which completely ruins the emotion and the tension of the scene. And it's also stupid because they completely blow the load in the friggin' pilot by revealing that, Shaggy is in love with Velma. Instead of slowly building up to it and then turning him down, he just completely rips his heart in half. She completely rips his heart in half right then and there. And it's just, you just feel bad because they're just humiliating him for no reason. And it's just, it's awful because Shaggy is like a chill and laid back guy that loves to eat. He was never a simp, so the fact that they make him into one is just heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking, and it's just mean. It's just very, very mean, and they humiliate him for a second time at the end of the second episode because when Velma and Daphne kiss, guess who's right there to witness it all? That's right, Shaggy. He's there to witness it, and he's in a top hat, and he's got like a glass eye patch, and he does it as a way to try and woo her and all that sort of stuff, and he witnesses it there, and it's just, again, they just humiliate him by having him witness Velma and Daphne kissing. It's like, look, if they wanted Velma to turn down Shaggy's affection and make it clear that this was a one-sided love affair, that would have been fine, but that should have been something that they slowly built up to. And on top of that, we don't even get a legitimate reason as to why Shaggy would like Velma. If you have actually taken the time to sit down and watch this show, then you would know that Velma is a completely unlikable piece of shit. Like, you would know that Velma is completely insufferable and unlikable and mean and awful. So, what does Shaggy see in Velma that we don't see? Because there's nothing about Velma in this show to actually like. I don't understand why Shaggy would go out of his way to win Velma's affections. I don't even know. We don't even know why Velma. We don't even know why Shaggy would even like Velma. They don't even take the time to develop that connection. So the whole one-sided love affair just completely doesn't work. And, you know, that would have been something to reveal later in season 1, not in the pilot. I've honestly been going on long enough, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But there's one other aspect about why the show doesn't work that I want to talk about in this video. Yeah, and that is the fact that Velma's mother goes missing, and that's like the key. That is the main plot line of this of season 1. Velma's mother goes missing, and she, you know, was a mystery solver, and she wrote mystery novels and all that sort of stuff. Velma's mother goes missing, and that's like the huge plot line of season 1. And, you know, at first they established that, Velma's mother went missing because she felt so bad about not getting Velma a Christmas gift that she went out to get a Christmas gift, and then she never returned. And then they completely ruined this by establishing that Velma's mother abandoned Velma and her dad because she couldn't stand being around Velma anymore, because Velma infuriated her in a way that only a kid could do. Like, you know, Velma drew a bunch of pictures over her mystery novels. She sprayed her in the face with water, and, you know, she sprayed. She spilled her whiskey all over her table and broke her computer, and that's the reason why she left Velma. Yeah, that's her reasoning for abandoning her. It's like they tried so desperately to try and build up this mystery, to build up, why did Velma's mother go missing? But then they completely ruined that by revealing the reason why she left in the first place. So if anything, that serves to make her mother unlikable, and it completely ruins the big plot line that they were trying to set up. So now, I honestly could care less whether or not Velma finds her mother. I could care less whether or not, you know, she ever appears again. Because, you know, look, I understand that, you know, kids can be annoying as shit to parents. Look, I was a kid once. I did plenty of stuff to annoy my parents. And I'm pretty sure everyone that is watching right now did plenty of stuff to annoy their parents when they were kids. But, you know, just because your kid is being annoying is not a good justification for completely abandoning, you know, your kid when they're young. And on top of that, for years on end. You know, but apparently they want that to be, the big plot line. Velma's mother gets missing, you know, and they want, you know, like, why'd she go missing? But it's pointless. Why would I care? You just completely ruined the reasoning as to why that is. It's bad. The show is just littered with just bad writing and bad storytelling across the board, and just the whole tone and the vibe of the show is completely. It's just unnecessarily mean and cynical, and it's just unpleasant to watch. I suffered watching this show. This show is not fun to watch, and I would not advise anyone waste their time to watch it. I know there are going to be some of you out there that are curious and are going to want to check it out just because you want to see if it's as bad as everyone says it is. Trust me, it's awful. Do not waste your time. Do not watch this show. Even out of morbid curiosity, even out of hate watching, do not watch this show. Do not waste your time. The only reason I watch this show is so that you did not have to watch this show. It is awful in every conceivable way, and there are no redeeming qualities whatsoever. This show is honestly one of the worst I have seen it in quite some time, and honestly, like, Scoob Holiday Haunts got canceled because of tax write-offs in the wake of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. If you want my honest opinion, this show should have been canceled as a tax write-off. Honestly, Warner Brothers Discovery would have been doing the world a favor if they did that. It's infuriating because Scoob Holiday Haunt and a bunch of other animated shows like Final Space and Close Enough were basically scuttled from the face of the earth due to tax write-offs. You can't even buy them legally anymore. But for some reason, they felt that this show was good enough to release into the world, and it was the most watched animated series on HBO Max, which doesn't account for shit because they scuttled most of their animated programming. So it was popular by default, and it was based on an iconic franchise like Scooby-Doo. So of course people were gonna watch it just to see how it turned out. Look, I've gone on for long enough, and I've said my piece, so I'm just gonna end it here. This is ThatKidDouglas, aka the Unhero, signing out. Deuces, stay frosty and keep it weird. And until next time, just don't watch Velma. Until next time, don't watch Velma, and I'll see y'all for the next one.